Ready? Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester. My name is Aaron Payson. I'm honored to be one of the ministers here. As we settle into our time of worship, we begin with our prelude this morning, a song by Alex Pham, seen on video, I See You. You are also invited to light a silent candle of joy or sorrow at this time.
used to think you couldn't see me when I curled up tight. Now I know you see me, so I'm letting in the light. I can love you as you are. You can hold me in your arms. I couldn't see how I could open up as much as you. The colors of my being seem to stick inside like glue. Now the dust surrounds me, knowing what I have inside. I feel it in my molecules, it's ready to fly. Do you see me? I see you. Did you think that I could not see through? Do you see me? I see you. Did you think that I could not see through? And when you're away, I know you'll come back soon. When you're away, I'll be waiting for you. When you're away, I know you'll come back soon. I'll be waiting for you. Do you see me? I see you. Did you think that I could not see through? I used to think you couldn't see me when I curled up tight. Now I know you see me, so I'm letting in the light. I couldn't see how I could open up as much as you. The colors of my being seem to stick inside like glue. Now the dust surrounds me, knowing what I have inside. I feel it in my molecules, I'm ready to fly. Do you see me? I see you. Did you think that I could not see through? Do you see me? I see you. Did you think that I could not see through?
We light this chalice in honor of first steps, for beginning even when the path ahead is unclear, for the courage it takes to trust that the way will reveal itself, that light will come to clarify our vision, that friends will be by our side. May the words, song, stillness, and common breath of this hour remind us that each step of the way is never one we take alone. Good morning again. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester, a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. We begin by acknowledging that in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, live, and worship on the seized ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people who survive and remain active as the Nipmuc Nation. We offer a special welcome to those of you who are visiting with us for the first time this morning. We're delighted that you're here, either in person or online. We hope that for those of you who are in person, you'll join us for a fellowship hour following the service or remain online for virtual fellowship. If you have questions or desire more information about this service or any of the ministries and programs of this congregation, please do not hesitate to ask. We invite you to fill out one of the cards that are found in the pews this morning and to place it in the offering plate or to give it to one of our ushers or greeters this morning. These cards will be used for church purposes only to be able to facilitate more quickly any of your interests or desires in learning more about the congregation. For those of you joining us online this morning, we offer you a very special welcome. For safety purposes and so that we might come to know you better, as you are able, please do put your name in your video feed. Please take a moment to sign one of our attendance clipboards as they are being passed around. Though you're not obligated to sign, we appreciate your information and will use it only for church purposes. During the service, we offer an opportunity to share a brief personal joy or sorrow. If you would like yours to be read aloud by me, please print it on an index card and in the pew and drop it either in the collection plate or bring it forward at the time of joys and sorrows, and I will be glad to read it for you. These cards will also be posted outside my office to be shared with friends at other services. For those online, you can place your joy or sorrow in the chat. If you would please precede it by "please read" so that we can find it quickly, and we will also share that during that time in the service. In the foyer, there are listening devices and large print service programs and hymnals for those who may find their assistance beneficial. Please see one of our ushers who will be pleased to assist you in finding anything that you need. We invite you now to turn your technology to worship mode. And finally, please note the announcements on the back of your program. And if there are other announcements, quick announcements, we will have time following the postlude for any of those. We are so glad that you are with us this morning and hope that this time is an opportunity for you to rest and reflect and rejuvenate. Our opening words this morning are those of Katie Kandarian Morris. Here we have come into this sacred space, quiet her now with our readiness, hushed voices, hoping, trusting for so many things, for connection, for communion, for inspiration, for information, for healing, for wholeness, for words, for music, for celebration and consolation. Here we have come into this place bringing all of who we are. Let us be willing, however we are changed. Would you please join in singing our opening hymn found in your Teal hymnal supplement, number 1015, "I Know I Can." Please rise in body or in spirit. Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my soul hard, those swing at every turn, oh no, I can go on. Tomorrow's hills make old, and burdens make me strong. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song. The troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. The journey is long, the destination near. The troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brothers, just take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. When hope awaits at every turn, I know we will go on. Please be seated.
This thing on?
Hi, everyone. Instead of our Change for Change collection this morning, I am going to do a time for all ages. And I'm Robin, and I am the Director of Religious Exploration and Education here at UUCW. Oh, this is my friend, Penny Dot. Penny Dot has a lot of questions about our community. So I thought the best way for them to learn would be to come here with me this morning. So friends from church, please say hi to Penny Dot.
Wow, hi everyone. So, Robin, what exactly do you all do when you come here to UUCW?
Oh, what do we do here at UUCW? Wow. Well, what do you all think we do here at UUCW? Yell out a few things. A lot. Care for people, connect, outreach, love, serve,
Music.
eat, drink coffee, dance, plant native plants.
Wow, that's a lot. So many ideas. What do you do here, Robin?
Well, you know, my job here is developing, directing, and teaching. So everybody gets religious exploration. So, but I think all the ideas that I just heard from the people in our church are right. And I believe that the things that we just heard from everyone in our church are really just different ways to describe how we are learning and growing together as a UU community.
So, from what I'm hearing, you all come here to be together and do lots of things. But one of the most important thing, what is the most important thing you come to? Whoops.
Penny, are you all right?
No.
Okay.
Brain fart. But one of the most important, what is the most important thing that you come here to learn and grow together? But what is the most important thing people learn in this church?
I don't know. Well, Let's see, what do you all think? What is the most important thing for you that you learn or that you teach at church? And this time you don't have to yell it out, but I will ask you if you could scan this QR code that you all should have, or if you're not into scanning QR codes, you can write 1, 2, or 3 words that describe why you come here, what you learn, what you feel like we teach. And this is part of a project that we're doing with the religious exploration. On these cards, Kim's holding it up, note cards, and you can put them in the offering plate after. We're going to submit them to my friends at the Threshold Project. You could write it on the back of that paper, or you could scan the QR code. I want everybody's participation, if we could, Penny, Dot, because we are very interested in knowing what our folks here and around the world, everybody in the UU world, around the world, is doing the same exercise in the month of November. And we just want to understand and attend to emergent needs of our congregation and do what you like to do more, do what you crave to do more.
Well said.
Thank
you for telling me about your wonderful community. I think I'll hang around for a while to check it out.
You're gonna hang out?
I'm
Oh,
gonna
good.
hang out.
So if everybody could do this today, I'm gonna take the kids at this point and we're gonna go do some religious exploration. Do you all wanna come with me now? Let's go.
Go now in peace.
Go now in peace.
May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Thank you, Penny. Jenny. The words of Jalaluddin Rumi, as translated by Reinhold Nicholson, Rumi's Guest House. This body, O youth, is a guest house. Every morning, a new guest comes running into it. Beware. Do not say, "The guest is a burden on me," for presently he will fly back into non-existence. Whatever comes into thy heart from the invisible world is thy guest. Entertain it well. Every day, too, at every moment, a different thought comes, like an honored guest into thy bosom. O dear soul, regard thy thought as a person, since every person derives their worth from thought and spirit. If the thought of sorrow is waylaying, spoiling joy, yet it is making preparations for joy. It violently sweeps thy house clear of all else, in order that new joy from the source of good may enter in. It scatters the yellow leaves from the bough of the heart in order that incessant green leaves may grow. It uproots old joy in order that the new delight may march in from the beyond. Sorrow pulls up the crooked, rotten root in order that it may disclose the root that is veiled from sight. Whatever things sorrow may cause to be shed from the heart or may take away from it, assuredly it will bring better in exchange. Whenever the thought of sorrow comes into thy breast anew, go to meet it with smiles and laughter. Would you like to hear some good news? Oh, right. Someone has had coffee this morning. In many ways, we just experienced the good news. One of the things that we very much celebrate in this congregation, for those of you who are new, is our stellar religious exploration program for children and youth. And while many congregations continue to struggle to recenter families, this congregation has really never lost sight of that opportunity to be present to people of all ages. And our youth remind us of just how vital our mission as a congregation to be a community of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world, is so very important. As we enter into another period of election where we feel so much is on the line, what we demonstrate to those who have not yet the capacity to vote is the courage to demonstrate a will to be in the world a different way. And for us this morning, the presence of our children is just such a reminder of how vital that mission is. So for me, that is the very best news that we have this morning. The other good news this morning is that it's Soup Sunday, and there will be soup during coffee hour. What's the vegetarian option this week? Roasted butternut squash soup, and turkey chili. So those will be available during fellowship hour for a suggested donation of $5, but frankly, if you're hungry and you don't have any money, you're gonna get fed anyway. So please do join us for Soup Sunday this week as well. So in honor of this opportunity for friendship and for fellowship, the opportunity to continue to witness to the very important mission of this congregation, we, when we gather in worship, take up an offering, an opportunity for us to reflect our own values through that which is symbolic of our own efforts, an offering in service to our mission and ministries. So I invite those of you who would like to participate in this offering to either add your donation to the collection plates if you're here, or if you desire to do so online, you may text 508-231-5335 and participate in the digital offering this morning. This time the morning offering will be received. Come to that time in our service when we're given pause to consider what is deepest in our hearts or most profoundly on our minds, or in the work of our hands, in the days that have transpired or in the prospect of days to come. Joys and sorrows that touch us deeply and are given another measure of meaning because of our capacity to share them in the midst of a company that claims us as a co-journey. So I invite those of you who have joys or sorrows this day to form lines on either side of the sanctuary, to come and speak briefly into the microphone, telling us first who you are so that those using our auditory enhancement devices or who are online can also participate in this important ritual, and then to light a candle if you so desire. For those of you online, once again, if you would like to offer a joy or sorrow today, please do put it in the chat, amended by please read, so that those who are monitoring our Facebook and our Zoom chat can call forward your joys or sorrows.
Good morning. My name is Linda Orchid, and my joy is, after a very, very rough weekend, last weekend, I found a week from Thursday, Roxy laying down her litter box, which is way, way out of character from her. Anyone who knows me knows I have no human children, but I've had 8 pets through my adult life, and my 4-legged kids are everything to me. I spent almost the whole night at Tufts that Thursday night. Paid dearly for it, but at least have the peace of mind knowing that she is fine and she has made a full recovery. It means a lot to me.
Hello, I'm Mary Fitton, and I'm happy to say that I'm able to come back to church in person after a long pandemic hiatus. So it's nice to see familiar faces, but it's also really nice to see some new faces, people that I've yet to meet. My big joy this morning is that my oldest nephew, Dylan, and his wife, Jenny, blessed us with the next generation of Fittons. So on Thursday, Julian Zia Fitton arrived, 6 pounds, 10 ounces, and mother, father, and baby are doing well. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Linda Rich. I'm a member of the pastoral care team. We have a meal train for Karen Stevenson. Her mom passed away a short while ago. If you'd like to, her mom's name is Grace Dolores Stevenson. So please see me after church in Fellowship Hall, and I'll give you a link to be able to help out with the meal train. And anybody who's online, I think you can put something in the chat, and then you'll be able to get that to me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diane. A couple of weeks ago, I told you all about a grandniece I have in Nashville who has Down syndrome, and she's 4 months old, who was going to have a 6 to 8 hour surgery to replace her heart valves. Surgery went okay. It's been touch and go since then. She has some fluid on her lungs, which is not a good situation, and she was almost septic. So if you have some healing left in your souls, please send it the way of Mia Nutria. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Catherine. I have a 26-year-old son who grew up in this church, so you might remember Ben with the crazy curly blonde hair. He and his girlfriend recently moved out from Brooklyn to a town called Middleborough in Massachusetts, and I went to visit them yesterday, and Ben's girlfriend came home from a bike ride to pick up a cup of coffee, and she said, guess what? I looked up and there was this huge Black Lives Matter sign and then a huge rainbow flag. She goes, I found a UU church in our town. She goes, this is going to be really important to us because when we lived in Brookline, she's like, we were surrounded by sort of like-minded folks, but it's not quite the same in this town. So she said, I'm going to be able to find some new community here in my town. And I thought, yay, it worked.
My name is Alfredo. I'm new here. I've been 3 months here in the US. I came driving from Mexico City to be with my son, a 17-year-old, who's going to who's senior right now. And finally, I got hired, so I'm really, really happy. I was working at Open Sky, that is center for rehab, and I'm so happy about that. My family is so happy. I want to share that.
Hi, I'm Maura. I have lit a candle for the life and now memory of Rice Lyon, the mother of one of my dearest, longest time friends. Rice was born Anita Rice in New York, Brooklyn, New York, moved to Princeton, New Jersey in the 40s with her then husband, had 3 children. She later remarried. Anyway, Rice was a force of strength, courage, a little bit of self-centeredness, and a lot of opinions. She worked for about 40 years for the Center for Population Research at Princeton University and contributed to demographics as we know them today. She was also an avid folk dancer, spreading the word of folk dances, ethnic and familiar throughout her life. Her daughter, Amy, is one of my best friends and continues today to run the Tuesday night folk dancing in Princeton program. I will miss Rice. She was my own friend. She lived 93 wonderful years, the last 20 of which she couldn't really dance anymore, but dancing is our shared life and passion. I miss you.
Rice very much sounds like, the way my father was once described to me from a friend who said, I see your father's taking a new position. I said, yes. He said, I've been told he's a person of very few opinions and a lot of convictions. So we need people like that in our lives. Paul Marr writes, November 5th, 1982, my mom, Helen Marr, passed away. It was 40 years ago. So for Helen and for Rice, for Rachel and for Mina, we enter into this spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, the Holy One. We extend ourselves into the universe in a way that allows us to touch the heart and spirit of those in need of healing, and to remember those back into our existence who have transcended this mortal plane, so that we might commune together in spirit. Help us be mindful of this moment, when we are touched and can touch each other through glance and embrace, through thought and deed, through words of memory, visions of hope. The coming week, as we participate in the sacred ritual of our democratic being, let us be mindful of the legacy that we represent, all those who have gone before us and given us this opportunity to be in freedom and to work for change and to continue to hope and serve a better world. Amen. And bless you. Debano, you are a gift. Next week, on November 13th, we will be honored to have two pianists with us, as Deb continues to serve in her interim capacity and Matt Johnson returns to the sanctuary. Matt will begin by coming in to do a few pieces at a time and work his way back into what he hopes will be, and at the same time we continue to thrive because of the efforts of Deb and of David and so many others that have helped to make this time so meaningful as we continue to pray for Matt's recovery fully during this time. So, in a 1962 review in the New York Times, book review, entitled As Much Truth as One Can Bear, James Baldwin writes the following: societies are never able to overhaul themselves. This effort must be made by that yeast which every society cunningly and unfailingly secretes. This ferment, this disturbance is the responsibility and the necessity of writers. It is, alas, the truth that to be an American writer today means mounting an unending attack on all that Americans believe themselves to hold sacred. It means fighting an astute and agile guerrilla warfare with that American complacency which so inadequately masks the American panic. It's hard to believe this is 1962. He continues, one must be willing indeed, one must be anxious to locate precisely that American morality of which we boast. And one must be willing to ask oneself what the Indian thinks of this morality, what the Cuban or the Chinese think of it, what the Negro thinks of it. Our own record must read, and finally the air of this time and place is so heavy with rhetoric, so thick with soothing lies, that one must really do great violence to language. One must somehow disrupt the comforting beat in order to be heard. Obviously, one must dismiss any hopes one may ever have had of winning a popularity contest. And one must take upon oneself the right to be entirely wrong and accept penalties. For penalties there will certainly be, even here. Again, I'm dumbfounded that that's 1962. I've been thinking a lot about Baldwin's words as we've been experiencing another political season, and as we prepare for another election this week. All of the rancor, all the emails, all of the texts, the debates and the television ads, the amount of information coming at all of us is enough to make many of us stop reading our email, turn off the television, and dive under the covers until the week is done. The clamor for allegiance to this party or that platform seems deafening. And the anxiety provoked by the visions of what will happen if one candidate or party wins over the other is enough to make us catatonic with fear. In order to participate in this venture and to remain energized about the efforts to make for real change in this country, relies mainly on one's ability not only to forge a vision of a better future, but also the capacity to engage those who may differ from us, sometimes dramatically, more with a sense of curiosity than outrage. For if real change is to happen in this country, the visions which are now at loggerheads eventually must include the other. Hear me out. In important ways, what we all hold in common across the political spectrum is fear. Fear that is stoked by the experience or actual experiences and the perceived consequences of the election. Many of us have been increasingly worried, especially since January 6th of the last year and the recent attack on Paul Pelosi, as well as other horrendous events like those that took place in Charlottesville. We have experienced again firsthand what fear can devolve into, and the anxiety that change can manifest in those whose power and privilege is challenged by such circumstances. And we have witnessed again the devastating consequences of the unfettered fury of nuclearized autocracy. For many in our country, this is a time that harkens back to the riots and the upheavals of the 1960s, the time of James Baldwin. And those few who are left to remind us of the cost of a world at war. Some even have begun to ponder the possibility of another civil war. In the midst of all of this, it is hard not to get caught up in the quagmire of fear and anxiety. What might it take then to not only shed the emotional mayhem of this tumultuous time, but to foster a pathway out of it, out of violence, out of the anxiety, and into the better future that we envision? Here I return to the words of James Baldwin again, whose essay is largely a critique of the writers of a previous generation and the battle that often occurs between literary generations who cast different visions, both of the past and the future. To this, Baldwin says, in the language of his own time, one must be willing, indeed, one must be anxious to locate precisely the American morality of which we boast, and one must be willing to ask oneself what the Indian thinks of this morality, what the Cuban and the Chinese think of it, what the Negro thinks of it. Our own record must be read. To read our own record is to come to this moment with a different sensibility. Instead of experience the violence that is done to language, as Baldwin put it, that disrupts the comforting beat in order to be heard as an ultimate truth or perilous threat, we must be willing to ask what experiences energize such rhetoric, to ask what another thinks or feels, to invite them to tell us their story. I'm mindful here of this effort at a time when listening differently parallels the efforts of many in our community to become trauma-informed. It is the lingo within the human services field that is all the rage right now, no pun intended. And the approach to those who are suffering or exhibiting challenging behaviors. Mindful of that this week as my family and I experienced the actions of a neighbor who set his front tree on fire, only to discover that he had been outside raging at that tree for over an hour. And it would have been one thing for us to just be furious, the idea that someone put our neighborhood at risk. But when one stops and asks, what was it that precipitated this? My inclination is to bake him bread with a note that says, "We're here. What do you need?" The discipline of being trauma-informed is fundamentally to shift from the perception of one's words and actions to precipitation that one's words and actions are what we need to fundamentally address and resolve, which we have a history of doing through various forms of incarceration. whether it be through the penitentiary system or through the way our mental health system operates, and instead to experience such behaviors and actions as symptoms of a deeper struggle and challenge which offer us an opportunity to witness to and companion people into a more lasting health and healing. This is how I hear Baldwin's words. The air of the time and place is so heavy with rhetoric, so thick with soothing lies, that one must really do great violence to language. One must somehow disrupt the comforting beat in order to be heard. The art of trauma-informed interventions, like that of addressing the difficult behaviors which often accompany complicated grief, is to be willing to support and uphold means which do not violate the welfare of others, and while at the same time honoring the difficult experiences which often energize violence. I have experienced this many times over in my career as I have worked with people whose actions alienate them from the ones who love them the most. And teaching people how to be able to say in the same breath, no, you cannot do that, and I hear you. That is a discipline worth remembering, not only in the context of difficult personal relationships, but also difficult community conversations. I hear you, and no, I'm not going to participate in your effort to damage something else. For instance, like many of you, I find it inconceivable that the governor of Florida flew displaced people to Martha's Vineyard unannounced. Outrageous. I'm appalled by such behavior, and I hope that those who are responsible are held to account for their actions. And at the same time, I'm also concerned that the vast majority of our country has been willing to allow states on the southern border to bear most of the challenge of responding to the overwhelming desire of so many to enter our country. Until we all act as though it is our country's responsibility to respond more effectively and humanely to this reality, tensions will inevitably rise. Baldwin concludes his 1962 essay with the words, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Words that in the essay hearken back to a previous paragraph where he writes, "We are the generation that must throw everything into the endeavor to remake America into what we say we want it to be. Without this endeavor, we will perish." However immoral and subversive this may sound to some, it is the writer who must always remember that morality, if it is to remain or become morality, must be perpetually examined, cracked, changed, and made anew. He must remember, however powerful the many who would rather forget, that life is the only touchstone and that life is dangerous, and that without the joyful acceptance of this danger, there can never be any safety for anyone, ever, anywhere. Remember Rumi's words a few minutes ago? "Whenever the thought or sorrow comes into thy breast anew, go and meet it with smiles and with laughter." Whereas my colleague and my friend, Sean Parker Dennison, writes about our better angels. Dear one, he begins. I love that. Dear one. It reminds me, as an aside, of a congregation that I was working with a couple of years ago, where I began my conversation with them by saying beloved, which is my way of calling people into community. And at the end of the experience, a woman came forward from the congregation and she was very frustrated. And she said, "Why do you use that word beloved?" And I said, "Because that is how I envision you." And she said, "Well, it smacks of spirituality, and that's not welcome here." And I went, interesting. Maybe I've just put my finger on what some of the issues are that we're trying to address here. Thank you for illuminating that, right? Just didn't know how to take the thanks, right? I think this is the most important lesson that I've learned in ministry, is that some people just come and they want to fight. And transactional analysis says the more you lean away from that, the more that you actually compliment and find something to affirm in whatever it is, the less energy there is in that moment. I think that would be well for all of us to remember this coming week, as we engage in many conversations we probably wish we didn't. But again, back to my friend Sean Parker Dennison. Dear one, he writes, we have received your letter and we hate to tell you, not hate so much, but are a bit afraid to say we cannot grant your request as stated, but can only remind you of familiar things. First, faith. Faith in yourself and trust in others. We know it can be terrifying to be vulnerable, but only when you share your softest side will you be able to break through. Next, hope. Hope is not an empty fairy tale. It is the true story of all the times human beings like you have found a way to create the future, though you didn't know how. And of course, love that demands you cherish all people, not just yourself. The argument ends abruptly when one child says, "That hurts." There is so much to learn and relearn. The world teaches you to be hard, to negotiate and defend, to avoid giving too much and to the wrong people. If you don't remember anything else this morning, remember this phrase: there are no wrong people. You also are not wrong, and when you encounter the poor, the broken, the unhoused, and the unwelcome, you are looking, if you pay attention, at us, calling you to answer your own prayers. If you want to change the world, first be sure you are changing yourself. Be tender, be kind, be at peace. Be all the things you wish for. Be your own better self. It isn't without cost, but it will be free. Remember Rumi? Whenever the thought of sorrow comes into your breast anew, go and meet it with smiles and with laughter. Change is inevitable. Resistance to it is futile. The choice we have is not whether change comes or not, but how we attend to it. And therein, beloved, and I do mean beloved, lies your power. Amen. And blessed be. Would you please join in our closing hymn, number 69, found in your gray hymnals, and rise in body or in spirit. Give thanks for the corn, the wheat that are reaped, for as labor well done, and for hearts that are heaped, for the sun and the dew, and the sweet honeycomb, for the rose and the song, and the harvest brought home. Give thanks for the mills and the farms in our land, for the craft and the strength in the work of our hands, for the beauty our artists and poets have wrought, for the hope and affection our friendships have taught. Give thanks for the homes, the kindness are blessed, for the seasons of plenty and well-deserved rest, for our country expanding, sea unto sea, for the ways that are made in the land of the free. My colleague Emily Richards writes, "May you leave this time together changed. May the promises you have made to yourself about who you want to be feel closer to reality, the reality of who you are right now. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. May it spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction, until we are all changed, transformed, and transforming together, becoming our better selves. Amen, and blessed be."
Oh, I am waking up to find my world between the dying and being reborn. I see what is and I see what could be. Can't close my eyes again and go back to sleep. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. How can I change our course? Just a lonely voice wish I could lose myself in all the noise. But if we all would rise, a generation proud, then with a mighty song, we could turn this world around. So fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Ancestors all behind, and before me every child. Ancestors all behind, before me every child. Ancestors all behind, and before me every child. I bring the power of a long, unbroken line. So when our time is through, I want to know we did what we came to do for the future ones. So in our darkest days, may we all be strong and give our lives so life may go on. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. Fill my days with blessed unrest, and my nights with dreams of justice. Make me a vessel for the turning of the tide. For the turning of the tide. For the turning of the tide.
Are there any quick announcements this time? And I want to just return to joys and sorrows for a moment. I neglected to ask if there were any online joys or sorrows. Not that we saw. Okay. Beloved, once again, our worship is ended, but our service continues. Next, with an opportunity for refreshment, soup, or simply conversation. There's also coffee, I believe. May yours be a wondrous and wonderful week. Do vote, and I look forward to seeing you all back here very, very soon.